Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here online and on News Center Maine Plus. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton with the latest on our weekend storm. It is going to have more moisture than most of our recent storms, and it will be slower moving. It gets started in western Maine and New Hampshire Saturday night, but not until Sunday morning in eastern and northern Maine, and then it wraps up everywhere Sunday night into Monday morning. Most of us will have several hours of snow that then changes over to sleet, ice pellets, and possibly some freezing rain, while across the far north it will be mostly or all snow, and a foot or more will fall. Here's a rough timeline for how the storm breaks down here. Most of the snow Saturday night into early Sunday morning will be in southern Maine and New Hampshire. Then it spreads north through the morning, but at the same time we start to mix over some sleet and eventually freezing rain into Sunday evening and Sunday night. Let's break down why that's important. Obviously, snow is formed in the cloud and falls all the way down to the ground because through the whole layer of air, the temperature is 32 or below. But sleet becomes a factor when warmer air moves in aloft. And in this storm, it looks like there will be some warming around 6,000 or 7,000 feet above the ground level that allows the snowflake to melt. But if the cold layer between that warm layer and the ground is thick enough, it has time to refreeze into a sleet pellet or an ice pellet before it hits the ground. Sleet's pretty messy. It's tough to shovel and plow, but it doesn't cause power outages. It doesn't cling to anything. The worst type of precipitation in that regard is freezing rain, where the snowflake melts, but the cold air is really just at the ground level and it doesn't have time to refreeze before hitting the ground. It freezes on contact with everything: trees, power lines, the roads. And freezing rain is more of the concern for tree limbs coming down and power lines coming down as well. And there will be some freezing rain, but I think much of the storm, once we see that changeover, will hopefully be in the form of sleet, which may limit the risk for some of those outages. So we'll show you here how this storm evolves as we move forward. As we head into late Saturday night and Sunday morning, snow moves into southern Maine and New Hampshire. But what's crucial for this forecast is a secondary area of low pressure will be forming in the Gulf of Maine, and that locks in a northeast wind, which means at the surface the air will remain cold while high in the sky it does warm up. If this didn't exist, we'd see a changeover to just plain rain, but in this case it means an icy mess because that cold air will linger near the ground level. So let's show you the timeline here. This is beginning Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The daylight hours of Saturday are just fine. In fact, there will be a lot of sunshine in eastern and northern Maine, but clouds do thicken up, and by Saturday evening some snow showers make it into eastern New Hampshire and western Maine. But the snow doesn't progress much farther northeast through the night. It's really just a southern Maine event through the night, and there will be accumulation on the ground by Sunday morning in southern Maine. It's after sunrise that this does start to move north, so by 9 or 10 o'clock getting into Waterville and Bangor, and it's still snowing in southern Maine around 9 o'clock. But after that, the sleet line starts moving north, so by about noon we'll probably be done with most of the snow accumulation in Cumberland and York counties, and we'll see a changeover to sleet, the ice pellets. They kind of compact the snow down, and they're tough to drive in too. And that line's going to advance north during the afternoon. There may be a period of time where the precipitation lightens up a bit, and then another wave comes in during the evening, and this is more likely to contain some freezing rain near the coastline. That layer of warm air may be a bit thicker, and it might not have time to freeze before hitting the ground. So we may get some freezing rain in spots, especially near the coastline, while it's mostly sleet farther north and still snowing in the mountains and far north into Sunday evening. Even at 9 o'clock Sunday night, this is pretty much still going on. We'll have a lot of sleet and freezing rain over down east and mid-coast Maine, and then the back edge starts to move into southern Maine, and for most places this will be winding down around midnight, except up north where snow showers will continue all the way into early on Monday morning. So the biggest question in the forecast is how quickly does the sleet come in, because that can impact the snow totals in all of this region. Haven't changed our snowfall map we first brought you on Thursday night. It is possible some places get more than 6 inches over York or Cumberland counties where it's snowing for much of the night Saturday night, but I think the end result doesn't really change a whole lot. It's about 6 inches of snow in this region that then changes to sleet and freezing rain with ice on top of it. Once you head farther north, north of Bangor around Lincoln, all of the Route 2 area, so Rumford, Farmington, down into the Oxford Hills, northern York County, and the northern half of New Hampshire, 6 to 10 inches of snow. It's mostly snow there with a little bit of sleet. And then where we stay, mostly or all snow from the Carabasset Valley up through northern Maine, 10 to 18 inches of snow, and it will be a fluffy snow up in the crown of Maine as well. Here's a closer look at the icing as the day Sunday goes along. You can see by 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon, we've seen that changeover in all of this region, and even some sleet that does try to mix in some of the mountains. But Sunday evening is when the possibility of not just sleet, but freezing rain does come up a bit, and we may see that changeover to freezing rain happen near the coastline. And there could be up to about a 1/4 inch glaze from that freezing rain. Now, if it ends up being more than that, that's when we become more concerned about power outages. If it's a 1/4 inch or less, usually it's just a glaze that doesn't really weigh down tree limbs and power lines. But above a 1/4 inch, that's when we may have limbs coming down and power lines coming down. So if the period of freezing rain Sunday evening ends up being a bit longer, then we may have more issues with power outages. Right now, we think more of the mix will be in the form of sleet, which lowers the risk for outages. But if that evening round comes in with more freezing rain, that may be more of an issue. And it looks like that possibility is from southern New Hampshire through southern coastal Maine. The farther inland and north you get, any mixing is more likely to be sleet than freezing rain. Either way, it's going to be tough getting around most of the day Sunday. And in fact, in central and northern Maine, maybe you can get around early in the day, but the afternoon and evening are just going to be a mess with that wintry mix moving into all of southern, central, and down east Maine. After the storm pulls away, it is going to be cold and windy. The wind gusts on the backside of the storm on Monday, and then quite cold for Tuesday. High temperatures in the teens to near 20, which means what does fall is not going to be melting anytime soon. And in the places that see the changeover from snow to sleet to freezing rain, it's going to be a challenge to clean up. And a couple of people have asked, what do you recommend? When do we go out and shovel and plow? Sometimes it can be better to leave a little snow on the ground or on your driveway when we're getting sleet and freezing rain, because it can add a little traction, but then you kind of have the issue of if it's a lot of freezing rain, then it just glazes over. So either way, it's going to be a mess to clean up, and by Monday morning, you'll be able to do that as the precipitation will be over then. We will have updates on the storm all weekend long. NewsCenterMaine.com. You can read our weather blogs there, and we will be streaming on News Center Maine Plus much of the day Sunday with updates on the storm. It's going to come in waves and evolve through the day as well. Have a good weekend and be safe.